The take on 13 August, in an English seaside town, a man in a bin costume received 9455 votes. I want to be upfront. I enjoyed this story enormously before I found anything useful in it. But there is something useful in it, and it turns out to be one of the more practical lessons in reputation management I have come across this year, which is not what I expected from a candidate whose published commitments include capping the price of a croissant at £1.10, abolishing VAR, and bringing back CFAX, a pledge he has now held consistently since 2017, and which, in fairness, is more policy consistency than most of us manage. Here is what happened, briefly. Nigel Farage took the Clacton seat back with 22,239 votes, just over 63%. By the measure he himself proposed, he won, and he is entitled to say so. The runner-up was Count Binface. What interests me is not who won. It is what the whole exercise was for, what it ended up measuring, and whether it settled the thing it was built to settle. Because the origin of all this is not satire. It is an unresolved question about registration. In the spring of 2024, a few months before he was elected, Farage received a £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, a crypto investor and Reform UK's largest financial backer. Both men have described it in more than one way. Mr. Harborne has said it reflected his admiration for Mr. Farage's decades of work on Brexit and was intended to keep him secure for life, adding that at the time he never thought Mr. Farage would return to politics. Mr. Farage has described it as an unconditional gift, as being for his personal security and as a reward for 27 years of campaigning. Neither has suggested any condition was attached. Mr. Harborne is not the subject of the investigation described below and is not accused of any wrongdoing. What is not in dispute is that the gift did not appear on Farage's register of members' financial interests when he was elected in 2024. And that it became public 2 years later through reporting by The Guardian. The relevant rule is short. Members must register their financial interests and registrable benefits received in the 12 months before their election within a month of being elected. On 13th of May, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards opened an investigation into whether there had been a failure to register an interest under Rule 5. That investigation has made no findings, and nothing here should be read as suggesting otherwise. Farage denies any breach. His position is that he was under no obligation to register the gift because it was given before he became an MP, and Reform has described it as a personal, unconditional gift, in respect of which no rules were broken. He has separately described the Standards Commissioner as being used as a political tool. This article is only about that Rule 5 registration question and takes no view on anything else. Then came the decision that I find genuinely interesting, and to my mind it is a communications decision rather than a legal one. In July he resigned the seat and triggered a contest, on the basis that the people of Clacton, rather than the media, should be the judges of his actions. The Standards investigation stopped when he ceased to be an MP. It is expected to resume when he returns to Parliament. Now, what follows is my reading of that sequence, not an account of anyone's intentions. Farage has given his own reasons, they are set out above, and they may well be the whole of it. But strip out the personalities and look at the shape, because I promise you have seen this shape before, probably in a meeting room, probably quite recently. It goes like this. Someone faces a question about a disclosure obligation. The question is narrow and, in principle, answerable. Was a benefit registered when the rules required it to be registered? The forum that asked it has not answered yet, and in the meantime, whatever the intention, a completely different question gets put to a completely different audience, on a different subject, against a metric chosen by the person being asked. He wins on that metric, and the original question has not moved an inch. It is still sitting there, exactly where it was in May, waiting patiently for him to come back. This is the oldest error in our business, and honestly, it is far more common in boardrooms than in politics. You know the versions. A company gets an awkward question about a related party transaction and publishes its employee engagement score. An executive under scrutiny for a governance lapse suddenly acquires a keynote slot, an award, and a magazine profile. An organization asked about its supply chain releases a sustainability report. None of this is dishonest. I have watched good, well-meaning people do all three, and I understand the appeal completely because it comes down to one thing. Those things can be won. The actual question can only be answered. Winning feels much better than answering, and it is available immediately. The technical term for what was sought here is a mandate. The plainer description is a favourable verdict from an electorate he chose to consult on a question he framed himself, in a contest the other parties declined to enter. And it is worth saying out loud that there is no procedure by which a constituency vote discharges a standards obligation. None was created this month. Popularity and compliance are simply different systems, and they do not convert into each other in either direction, which is also why thoroughly unloved organizations can be perfectly compliant and much admired ones can be in real trouble. But here is the part I would put in front of a board, because this is where the maneuver stops being merely ineffective and starts actively working against the person who chose it. The major parties declined to stand, calling it a stunt. What was left was a field of 34 candidates, a United Kingdom record, every one of them other than Farage a minor party or independent. Into that gap walked Count Binface, who has previously stood against 3 sitting prime ministers, and he finished second with more than a quarter of the vote in what should have been the safest possible territory for the incumbent. Turnout fell to 44%, down from just over 58% at the 2024 general election. Sit with those numbers for a second. They are not an opposition result because there was no opposition. They are a measurement of how many people offered an incumbent seeking vindication or a man in a costume went for the costume. No pollster on earth would have been commissioned to ask that question. No communications director would have signed it off. It exists as a permanent, official, published number for one reason only. The mechanism that produced it was built by the person it measures, who then invited the country to come and watch. And that is the bit that travels well beyond disclosure and well beyond politics. When you build a stage so that people can applaud you on it, you do not get to choose who else climbs up. You have created a public space and sent out the invitations, and anyone at all may accept. We all do this. The town hall convened to demonstrate transparency. The chief executive who opens the floor to show confidence. The campaign hashtag launched to prove we are listening. Every one of them is an occasion manufactured by us whose outcome is not ours to control. Sometimes that is exactly the right risk to take, and I would encourage it. It is only the right risk once the underlying thing has actually been dealt with, because a stage amplifies whatever happens to be standing on it, and an unresolved problem gets amplified along with everyone else. Count Binface, meanwhile, understood the assignment better than anybody involved. Asked about losing, he pointed out that there is more than one way to win, and noted that the prime ministers he has stood against are no longer in office. It is a joke. It is also, if you think about it for more than a moment, a rather good description of how reputation actually works. He was never competing on the scoreboard at all. He was competing on the one thing the incumbent could not control, which was what all of this would look like afterwards. None of which tells us anything about the merits of the standards question. That remains open. It may very well end in vindication, and it will do so on its own terms, in its own forum, on evidence about a registration deadline, entirely unaffected by a vote in Essex. That gap between the forum where a question actually lives and the stage where we would rather answer it is where most reputational damage really gets made, not by the original problem, which is usually smaller and considerably more boring than the coverage suggests, by the energetic, expensive, and very visible effort to be seen settling it somewhere else. The signal Nigel Farage won the Clacton contest with 22,239 votes, just over 63%. The runner-up on 9,455 votes and more than a quarter of the total was a satirical candidate in a bin costume in a record field of 34. Turnout fell from just over 58% at the 2024 general election to 44%. Result declared 14th of August 2026. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards investigation opened on 13th of May 2026 has made no findings. Mr. Farage denies any breach of the registration rules and says he was under no obligation to register the gift because it was given before he became an MP. The question, every organisation has at least one question it would rather answer indirectly. Mine does. Yours probably does too. So next time one lands, watch what gets suggested in the room. If the first idea is an event, a report, a survey, or a platform rather than an answer, someone is quietly choosing the scoreboard. The useful thing to ask out loud, and it only takes a second, is this. If we win the thing we are about to stage, is the original problem solved, or have we just built somewhere new for it to be seen? If this was useful, forward it to whoever owns conduct risk on your board. Sources and further reading: Tendring District Council, Clacton by-election result declared after record-breaking election. https www.tenderingdc.gov.uk News, Clacton by-election result declared after record-breaking election. Al Jazeera, Nigel Farage defeats Count Binface to reclaim UK parliamentary seat. https www.aljazeera.com News 2026 8:14 Nigel Farage defeats Count Binface to reclaim UK parliamentary seat. ITV News, Nigel Farage wins Clacton contest triggered by own resignation. https www.itv.com News, Anglia 2026 to 08:14 Nigel Farage wins Clacton by election triggered by own resignation. RTE, Farage beats Count Binface to win Clacton seat. https www.rte iNews UK 2026 0814 1587825 UK election. Clacton Channel 4 News Fact Check. The latest on Nigel Farage's £5 million gift and his resignation as Clacton MP. https www.channel4.com News Fact Check. The latest on Nigel Farage's 5M gift and his resignation as Clacton MP. Channel 4 News Fact Check. Nigel Farage's £5 million gift timeline, investigation, and what happens next. https www.channel4.com News Fact Check. Nigel Farage's 5M gift timeline, investigation, and what happens next. BBC News Standards, Watchdog investigates Nigel Farage. https Arch feeds BBCI Co UK News articles CKGJRP2LN740 News Farage defends £5 million gift, saying no one cares as investigation continues. https www.itv.com News 2026 to 0623 Farage defends £5 million gift, saying no one cares as investigation continues. UK Parliament Committee on Standards, the Code of Conduct and Guide to the Rules relating to the conduct of members. https publications Parliament UK PARCM 5803 CM Code 1083 Report 1. HTML. The views and analysis in this newsletter are Jonathan Ashton's own opinion based on the facts set out above and on the published sources listed. They are not statements of fact about anyone's conduct or intentions, and they do not constitute legal advice. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards investigation described here, opened on 13th of May 2026 under Rule 5, has reached no conclusion and no findings have been made in it. Mr. Farage denies any breach of the rules and has said he was under no obligation to register the gift because it was given before he became an MP. Mr. Christopher Harben is not the subject of that investigation and is not accused of any wrongdoing. Corrections and right of reply. Please contact me directly and I will amend promptly.